Egypt reaffirms its unwavering support for UNRWA. UNRWA Commissioner General praises Egypt's crucial role in delivering aid to the Gaza Strip. And the Israeli occupation army bombs buildings in Gaza City.
والله العظيم ولا حبة رز، والله العظيم ولا حبة عدس. ما فيش أكل، ما فيش شرب، عندي بنت 2.5 صارت نص.
Good afternoon and welcome to Q News. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati has declared Gaza's famine to be entirely man-made and a direct result of Israeli occupation. At a press conference with UNRWA's Commissioner General Felipe Lazzarini, Abdel Ati firmly rejected any attacks on UNRWA and denounced alternatives as abject failures. He reaffirmed Egypt's unwavering support for UNRWA, holding the international community accountable for dwindling aid. The Egyptian Foreign Minister stressed Israel's intransigence as a major barrier to peace and reiterated Egypt's opposition to Israel's expansionist policies and use of starvation as a weapon. He emphasized Egypt's constant efforts to keep the Rafah crossing open for aid, noting Gaza's daily need for at least 700 trucks, and urged Israel to accept the Witkoff proposal endorsed by Hamas. Meanwhile, UNRWA Commissioner General Felipe Lazzarini has declared that famine in Gaza is now a grim reality, blaming Israel for crossing all red lines. Speaking in Cairo alongside Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati, Lazzarini called for an immediate ceasefire, stressing that hostages cannot be released without it, and that this is UNRWA's top priority. He demanded the lifting of restrictions on humanitarian organizations and praised Egypt's crucial role in delivering aid. He warned that UNRWA's dire financial situation has forced program cuts and described the lack of international response as shocking. Lazzarini also commended journalists and aid workers in Gaza, highlighting the heavy price they pay to report and provide relief. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati has held a phone call with U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff to discuss Gaza's crisis. They focused on joint efforts for a ceasefire based on the U.S. proposal. Abdel Ati stressed Israel's urgent need to accept the deal, reduce escalation, save Palestinian lives, allow humanitarian aid, and release detainees. He warned of Gaza's worsening humanitarian disaster, including famine, and condemned starvation as a weapon. Abdel Ati also briefed Witkoff on Egypt's readiness to host an international reconstruction conference post-ceasefire, aligned with the Arab Islamic plan. They additionally discussed advancing diplomatic efforts to revive Iranian nuclear talks for regional stability. The Israeli occupation army announced that it had bombed a multi-story building in Gaza City after issuing an evacuation order. Israeli army spokesperson for Arab media, Avicii Adrei, said on Platform X and claimed that Hamas had placed underground infrastructure near the building from which terrorist plots against Israeli occupation forces were being promoted. That's a claim we cannot verify. The Israeli army has ordered Palestinians in Gaza City, in the northern part of the Strip, to evacuate immediately without inspection, as it announced the expansion of the ground maneuver in the city as part of Operation Iron Swords 2, aimed at fully occupying it. In a statement published on the Platform X, the Israeli military said it is conducting an operation inside Gaza City And starting from this moment, in order to facilitate the evacuation, it has declared the Al Mawasi area a humanitarian zone where efforts will be made to provide improved humanitarian services. Now, for more on this, let's go across to our newsroom where Mona Masalhi is there for us. Mona.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. And for further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by Al Ahram newspaper managing editor, Mr. Ashraf Al Ashri. Good afternoon to you, sir, and welcome to Qnews. Let me start by asking you about Egypt's assertion that Gaza's famine is entirely man-made. And how would Egypt's assertion reshape the international understanding of the humanitarian crisis in the Strip?
What Badr Abdulati said, the Egyptian foreign minister, he said that Cairo is insisting on pressuring Israel and, asking the international community to put an end to the starvation, and that Egypt is rejecting, like what they said yesterday and today, as the foreign minister said, that Cairo refuses any tries to displace the Palestinians, and that it will not stop fighting for the Palestinian cause, and that there is an Egyptian want for the international community to start acting and to put a ceasefire and to reach a ceasefire. And as we saw today, this is very important, and this pressures Israel until he stops blaming Egypt for things like the Rafah corridor, and this actually shows and holds them accountable, and they want to put an end to any hope for Netanyahu and Israel's hope to take over Gaza.
Well, let me ask you here about Egypt's assertion that starvation is being used as a weapon in the conflict.
Of course, this is a war against the international law, the humanitarian international law, and as the foreign minister Abdulati said today with the UNRWA convoy, that this is a war against humanity, a war against the Palestinians, and they want to, have a siege on the Palestinians and displace them from Gaza. And this can't happen, because if there is a want to displace them, then they can open any other corridors, but Egypt will not take part in this crime, and they will not allow starvation, and they will keep on sending convoys, humanitarian aid and medicine to pressure Israel and help the Palestinians. And so here the foreign minister sends messages to the international community to take action to stop what Netanyahu and Israel are doing with the starvation and putting all the Palestinians in a very small area to push them to displace or even die. And this is a strong stance from Egypt's side to pressure the international community, to pressure Israel to reach a ceasefire and stop the starvation. And we will see this in the upcoming days with the Egyptian diplomacy and, taking part in conferences to recognize Palestine as a state.
Mr. Ashri, how from your point of view is the weapon of starvation and operations that are being committed against Palestinians forcing them to the borders, how is that helping in the forced displacement? And what do you have of what the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said?
This is an ethnic cleansing war, as Egypt said yesterday in its statement. This is an ethnic cleansing war, and it is completely unacceptable, because it goes against the international law and the humanitarian law. And as Egypt said today, there will not be a single Palestinian that will leave their land. This is their land, their father's land, their grandfather's land. They will not leave Gaza, and so any tries to starve them or to displace them, as Egypt said today, this is just delusions from Israel's side, and this is just brutal because again the Palestinians aren't going to leave their land, and the Arab countries will not accept this, as Abdelati said, and so this will not keep on going, and Israel can't win in its war against Egypt with the war, with the media war that it's having, blaming Egypt and so on. And Egypt will keep on exposing Israel and pressuring the pressuring the countries for countries to start taking a stance to reach a ceasefire and to remove Netanyahu and the extremist communities. And so here we can say that Israel's media war against Egypt will not get them anywhere, but will push Egypt to pressure more for this war on Gaza to end, and to end the starvation and the killing.
Now, Egypt has been always supporting the UNRWA as the agency that helps Palestinians inside the Strip. Now, how did that support enabled this organization to operate amid all the financial and logistical challenges that are being put?
As he said, that internationally the people are starting to wake up, and the countries are starting to wake up somewhat, but it is in vain. They're not taking any actions, and as Rini said, that there is, countries are starting to condemn Israel for the starvation and for the ethnic cleansing, but we blame the international community for not doing everything they can to save the Palestinians and to reach a ceasefire. They have been patient with everything that's been going on with them, and Nazarini had a strong stance to condemn the Israeli actions, and he also praised Egypt's support and stance, and said that Egypt has been helping the Palestinians with the aid and everything, and has been trying its best to keep the Palestinians alive with everything that they give them, and with the Rafah crossing closing. But also we need, with Egypt's stance, we need the international community stance as well to save the Palestinians, because it is a very weak stance. And this is exposing, actually, for the president to expose America, Israel, and any country that supports them. But this is in vain, actually, if they are not pressuring Israel.
Why is Israel resisting the Witkoff proposal here? And what could be the potential of Israel escalating instability or escalating the situation in the Middle East? And how will that reflect on the Middle East at large? All the policies of Israel of expansion to its war, and definitely the escalation in Gaza and in the area around.
Fortunately, Israel doesn't want an agreement, not a partial one, not a full on agreement. It just wants to take over Gaza in the upcoming week in a trial to save Netanyahu's political life, and having them stay in his chair instead of being dragged to court, basically, and being held accountable. And so Trump keeps on covering his crimes to keep him in, to keep the chair, and they want to turn Gaza into their own project, the Greater Israel project. And so there will not be any, they will not accept any partial or full agreement, at least in the ongoing month, because they want to displace the Palestinians for Israel to be able to build Rivera on the Gaza land, even if that means the killing of the brutal killing of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. but and Israel will not accept any ceasefire unless it is being heavily pressured from the Western countries and the other countries, around the world. And so, yes, we need Trump to start also pressuring him, and we need to wait for the United Nations conference. Because, in my opinion, by then there will be more countries supporting the ceasefire and pressuring Israel and America to reach a ceasefire and to stop their project, save the Palestinians, and stop the starvation and the cleansing.
Well, that was Mr. Ashraf Al-Ashri from Cairo, Al-Ahram newspaper managing editor. We thank you so much for joining us here on Q News. And back to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mona Masselhi there in our newsroom. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues to reject any proposals to end the Gaza war and secure the release of detainees, prioritizing his political survival. Former Chief of Staff Jose Halevi and militants urged a one-step deal to free all detainees, enabling a decisive military victory over Hamas afterward. However, Netanyahu dismissed this as a defeat and blocked the plan, opting instead for a phased hostage release only partially implemented. Meanwhile, Israeli forces launched a new large-scale Gaza invasion. The Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has emphasized that diplomacy is essential to provide and protect civilians and establish Palestinian-Arab consensus on Gaza's future. It warned of escalating dangers threatening Palestinian lives amid intensified Israeli aggression in Gaza. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned Israel's systematic expansion of destruction, targeting homes, towers, and all aspects of life in Gaza City, highlighting the severe humanitarian crisis caused by ongoing military escalation. The Jordanian government has reaffirmed its unwavering stance on the Palestinian cause, emphasizing the inalienable legal and humanitarian rights of return for Palestinians. It condemned the forced displacement as a war crime against humanity and warned against ongoing violations and attempts to erase Palestinian rights. Jordan declared its position a line of fire against any forced displacement efforts, pledging steadfast support for Palestinian freedom and statehood, with East Jerusalem as its capital in line with international law and UN resolutions. Gaza-based health authorities have announced that the death toll from Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip has climbed to over 64,300 and over 162,300 wounded. Gaza-based health authorities have reported that Israeli military operations in Gaza had killed 68 Palestinians and injured more than 362 others in the past 24 hours. Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom, warned that the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip is heading toward an unprecedented catastrophe if the intense Israeli military operations witnessed in parts of the Strip over the past week continue. In a statement published on the organization's official website, he explained that more than 15,000 patients in Gaza are in need of specialized and urgent medical care, including around 3,800 children. He added that over the past month, more than 100 cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, a condition that can lead to paralysis, have been recorded, resulting in 11 deaths. He noted that the organization is making intensive efforts to evacuate patients in need of emergency treatment outside Gaza.
We call for a scaled-up, sustained, and unimpeded flow of humanity.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين. وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بيخوف.
Lebanon now, and Hezbollah views the Lebanese cabinet's recent endorsement of the army's plan to monopolize arms as a chance to return to wisdom and restraint, aiming to prevent the country's descent into uncertainty. Hezbollah official Mahmoud Komati welcomed the government's conditional progress on the U.S. proposal, linking it to Israeli actions. Hezbollah rejects disarmament but expects the government to adopt a national security strategy. The Lebanese cabinet expressed support for the army's disarmament plan without setting a timeline, acknowledging the military's limited capacity in this area. This cautious stance reflects ongoing tensions surrounding Hezbollah's armed status within Lebanon. Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri has praised the Lebanese army's military plan to centralize weapons under state control. In press remarks, Berri emphasized that the initiative helps preserve civil peace, describing developments as positive. He noted that the toxic winds of division are beginning to subside, signaling hope for national stability and unity through this approach. And Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has affirmed that the cabinet's decisions are clear and leave no room for misinterpretation. He emphasized there will be no retreat regarding the monopoly on weapons. Salam confirmed the government's commitment to extending state authority using its own forces in line with the resolutions of the August 5th session. This stance underscores Lebanon's firm determination to enforce state sovereignty and control over arms without compromise.
We're trying to make a deal so that there's no destruction and death.
Russia's representative to international organizations in Vienna, Mikhail Ulyanov, has announced that the IAEA Board of Governors will meet next Monday with Iran's nuclear file as the main agenda. That comes as Iran's permanent delegate, Reza Najafi, confirmed that the start of a new negotiation round between Iran's delegation and the IAEA officials will happen. Najafi explained that these talks continue previous consultations and aim to define a new framework for bilateral cooperation, aligned with current Iranian parliamentary legislation. The discussions focus on shaping future relations and ongoing scrutiny of Iran's nuclear program. Azerbaijan has announced the resumption of direct flights with Iran after a suspension that has lasted several years. The country stated that the first direct flight on the Baku-Tabriz-Baku route has already taken off, following directives from Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. It added that in the initial phase, these flights will operate twice a week, paving the way for a new phase of direct connectivity between Iranian and Azerbaijani cities. Meanwhile, the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has criticized the West's silence regarding the expansion of Israel's nuclear program. In a post on his official account on platform X, Araghchi said that the West's perspective, the issue is not about the existence or expansion of nuclear arsenals, but rather about who is allowed to make scientific progress, even when it comes to peaceful nuclear programs. Sudan now, where the Sudanese army aircraft has bombed the Rapid Support Forces positions in Samima, Kaskil and Bara City in North Kordofan. This this operation is part of an extensive military campaign conducted by the Sudanese army over several weeks, primarily targeting areas in the west and North Kordofan. The offensive reflects the ongoing conflict between the army and paramilitary forces, highlighting intensified efforts to regain control and stabilize the region. Russian President Vladimir Putin urged aerospace industry leaders to press on with efforts to develop booster rocket engines for space launch vehicles and build on Russia's long-standing reputation as a leader in space technology. Putin noted Russian success in developing innovations in terms of producing engines, particularly in the energy sector, despite the imposition of sanctions by Western countries linked to Moscow's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Ukraine would continue to respond to Russian attacks on its energy facilities. During joint news conferences with the Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, Zelensky said Ukraine responds to Russia's attacks on our energy facilities, on his energy facilities, and will keep doing so. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said in a published interview that the President of the United States' approach, that's Donald Trump, his approach to making diplomatic deals is completely different from that of European countries. Peskov compared Trump's stance to that of European nations, which he said are doing everything they can to obstruct a peaceful resolution to the war in Ukraine. He added that Russia prefers to resolve the Ukrainian conflict through diplomacy rather than military means.
Европейцы вставляют палки в колеса. Европейцы всячески потворствуют и, наверное...
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that Ukraine's allies are preparing a new set of sanctions against Russia as part of a campaign to pressure President Vladimir Putin to end the war on Ukraine. Carney added that Putin is the cause of this war. He's the reason for the killing, he said, and he is not going to dictate the terms of the peace.
We will have the greatest impact, and we will do so. We'll also fund over $200 million.
The White House has announced that President Donald Trump will sign an executive order today reinstating the historic name Department of War as an alternative designation for the U.S. Department of Defense. According to the White House, the order directs Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to take all necessary steps to officially change the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War.
During my first term, but then we had COVID and we had to focus on other things. You couldn't be tariffing Italy, Spain, France as they were.
Just before we go, time to recap the main headlines this afternoon. Egypt reaffirms its unwavering support for UNRWA. UNRWA Commissioner General praises Egypt's crucial role in delivering aid to the Gaza Strip. And the Israeli occupation army bombs buildings in Gaza after issuing an evacuation order. And that's all for now, but don't forget you can follow Q News on our social media platforms. Our handle is at QNewsEGY. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.